Hello and welcome to the latest video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout as we look ahead to Fantasy Premier League Gameweek 11 and try and pinpoint those under the radar gems to help you climb up the rankings. We'll do this via the goals and assists imminent tables, which use the Fantasy Football Scout members area stats to try and predict future returns. And today we'll see how last week's tables did. We'll also reveal who is on the latest tables ahead of Gameweek 11. Plus, we will focus on the best ultra differentials with ownership of around 5% or under. In addition, we will take questions you have at the end of the stream. So have a think about those and post your questions in the live chat at the end. My name is Joe, and as ever, I'm joined by Fantasy Football Scouts Deputy Editor Tom Freeman. Tom, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, thanks, Joe. Yeah, wildcard is done. That went pretty well. So, a bit less stress this week, which is nice. But looking forward to Gameweek 11. I get the feeling there won't be as many moves made this week, maybe, as last week, but interesting all the same.
Yeah, so you wildcarded last week, and lots of other people did. Great time to wildcard. So hopefully your team should be in good shape to perhaps hold a transfer or perhaps have a tweak here or there. And I think that's going to be the for a lot of people as well. They've probably made a few moves last week, even if they weren't wildcarded. Just want to welcome those joining us in the live chat early on. Rixia, Jamie, Heather, Victor, Daffyd, Sowhill, Brian, and many more. Victor has joined us from Nairobi in Kenya. What's up, guys? Well, we're doing a video and you're listening and watching it. So welcome aboard, Victor, and everyone else who's joined us. Do have a think about some questions for us at the end. Lots to ponder and lots of players that we will discuss. So hopefully we will give you some good ideas of what to do. Okay, well, let's have a look and see how we got on with last week's table, our goals imminent table. And as ever, this is basically sorted by 10 shots in the last 4 matches they've played, but a maximum of 1 goal. So once they've scored more than 1 goal, they're off the table in a good way. And if their stats aren't good, because it's all done by XG and filters like that, and once if they haven't hit those stats, they drop off in a bad way. So yeah, quite a few blanked, but 2 players in particular saved us. Richarlison blanked. We were talking him. He's not going to be an option, is he, at the moment, because people are going to go for Son, and also in his price range under 7 million, you've got Matoma, you've got Mbomo, you've got Jared Bowen a bit more. Richarlison, he's just not going. People aren't going to go for him, are they? Despite
not
being
now.
imminent.
No, exactly. I mean, he was on the left of the front 3 again at Selhurst Park. But he wasn't great, and he was subbed off for Brennan Johnson, who came on and made a real impact. I thought he got the assist for the second goal, so it feels like a bit of a minutes risk now, maybe, with Richarlison going forward.
Yeah, Beto obviously blanked. He doesn't play anymore, lost his place. But this is last 4 matches they played, not the last 4 game weeks. Have to do that because annoyingly, Luton and Burnley had a double fixture in 1 week. So we'll start to pick up on that, and suddenly you'll see loads of Luton players and Burnley players in these tables a bit unfairly because they played an extra game within that sort of four-week cycle. Anana Everton blanked, still looking okay. Everton looking better. And Rashford blanked as well. So let's go with Rashford first. You got rid of him on your wild card, obviously. I mean, it's just end of days, isn't it? This is, I mean, I can't see the manager lasting if they carry on like this.
Yeah, it's just not happening for Rashford or United, is it? He missed a decent chance in that second half of the derby on Sunday as well. And I think, like you said, Joe, you worry a little bit about Ten Hag now. He's making some odd decisions. He's under pressure there, isn't he? Yeah. But if you've got him, if you actually still own Rashford, what would you do now, Joe? Because they've got obviously Fulham, and then Luton and Everton next. So they've got 3 nice fixtures, but you just think it's time to ditch.
Yeah, it's gone. It's there's so many other good midfielders.
Yeah.
Why not have Maddison when you've got Rashford? Why not have Mbomo when you've got Rashford? Why and the list goes on and on and on. And there's another player, Szoboszlai, we'll mention in a bit. You could go for him if you've got Rashford. You've got Rashford rather. So Anana at Everton is another player mentioned. He blanked for us there, and it was Calvert-Lewin that got the goal and got the returns. But Everton as a whole, we've got to change our opinion of Everton. Everton's actually possibly a tough game for certain teams.
Yeah, I think their performances have actually been pretty good for most of the season. They've had off days like the defeat against Luton a few weeks back, but generally they've been doing okay. They just needed to become a bit more clinical, and I think getting Calvert-Lewin
Yeah.
back is really important. I really like Calvert-Lewin when he's fit. He's
Mm.
playing well. He's got a bit of everything as a striker, and I think. Yeah, exactly like you said, Joe. We might need to kind of reassess Everton a little bit
Yeah.
now. They're getting players back. They're in a settled system, and it's a shame the fixtures aren't better. They're a little bit mixed at the moment, but yeah, they're definitely moving in the right direction again.
Definitely. Anthony's next. No one's going to go for him. Not only is he Manchester United, he's not very good. So we'll just move on from him. There's just other better ones. Similarly with Norgard at Brentford, I mean, he is actually quite good, and Brentford are playing well as well. But if you're looking for a Brentford player, probably going to be in Bomo.
Yeah,
I think,
or even Jensen above
yeah.
Norgard, who's been ticking over as well, hasn't he?
Next on the list, though, Szoboszlai. 2 assists. Now, I think we had to sort of stop ourselves talking about him so much last week because we were going on about him so much because he was hitting all of these, the great stats, and he was looking involved. He was on set pieces, and, undroppable in that Liverpool midfield. And he rewarded us and those that went for him with 2 assists, which is great. Probably more to come from him as well. Szoboszlai, I mean, anything more to add? I mean, a pretty good asset to get in, I think.
Yeah, he's just such a good player watching Liverpool. He's so good. I'm not a Liverpool fan, by the way, at all. But yeah, you just can't help but be, really impressed when you watch him play. He creates a lot of chances. He's on set pieces. We spoke about it off air briefly then, Joe, but he's a 90-minute man. And that counts for a lot in that Liverpool team when you've got players like Darwin and Jota and Gakpo who are coming in and out. You don't have those concerns with Szoboszlai. He plays 90 minutes each and every week, starts every game. The only concern which we mentioned last week was that a lot of his goal threat is from range. He's only had 3 shots in the box, I think, all season. But it's the whole package with Szoboszlai. It's not just goal threat, it's creativity, it's minutes, and it's all of that. Playing in a team as good as Liverpool as well. Yeah. So, why not? I could quite happily have him on my team.
Yeah.
Given the next few fixtures for Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, in my team at the moment, I've got Bowen in that because I play a sort of price points game, and in that sort of 7 million bracket, I've got Bowen there. But Szoboszlai's on the list to replace Bowen if he doesn't pull his socks up and improve.
Well,
last week.
West Ham don't look great. We'll probably speak about them later, but that could be a shrewd move, and you're getting a low owned Liverpool attacker as well.
Definitely, I've got Eze in here. He could also be an option in that sort of price bracket, but he's a bit cheaper. But Eze and Elise were seen on grass in training. They're not back full training, although rather they weren't last weekend, but they were seen in some kind of training and on the pitch in somewhere. So they basically Eze's return is imminent. It could be this weekend. It could be the following weekend. It could be a couple of weekends. But we're talking days or weeks here. We're not talking many weeks. So it's important to remember Eze, and his stats are still good, and as proved in here, the last 4 matches he's played, he's still on this table. He's not shifting. So that proves he's very good. And Crystal Palace as well. Looking at the fixtures, I mean,
they're great, aren't they?
General,
really good.
Yeah, they're second to Brighton over the next 6, according to the fixture ticker, the season ticker at Fantasy Football Scout. Crystal Palace, they've got Burnley up next. Then they've got Everton, who a tougher fixture now. But then Luton, West Ham, Bournemouth, and then Liverpool in Gameweek 16. So it turns a bit in Gameweek 16. It's a great run, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's the next 5 really you want to plug into, isn't it? Starting with Burnley, finishing with Bournemouth. Eze is the talisman there.
Yeah.
Even when Olise's in that team, Eze is the player that you want, I think, so that gets a bit more goal threat than Olise. I'd love him to be fit because I've got Martinelli in my team at the moment, who I think I'm content with for now. But yeah, it's like that price point spot that you just said, Joe, that is Eze could fulfill that position. Okay. But we need him back. We probably on penalties too, but we need him back fit. So, but they'll want to get him back, Palace, because they haven't got much cutting edge at the moment without him. So
I'm going to hop over the next name, James Garner. He blanked for us. Not many people are going to go there. There's plenty of better Everton assets, but certainly plenty of better assets in the game. But speaking of that price bracket, Eze is going to be having stiff competition to get in our teams. if we want to get Mbomo in. And Brentford, whilst they had a poor fixture, we've seen this many times before, and I've seen it many times before, and I still ignore it. But when Brentford play the big teams, they tend to play a 3-5-2 with Mbomo up front and wingers and wing backs, and they often do well. They've beaten Man City like that, admittedly with Ivan Toney, but then they beat Chelsea, and they're going to be beating the big teams because the way they set up like that. And I really like their 3-5-2, which they don't play when they play easy teams. So in a way, Mbomo against tough teams could be quite good. So Brentford play, they play West Ham next, then they got Liverpool and Arsenal. That's 3-5-2. And then they got Luton, Brighton and Sheffield United. So game week 14, good fixtures. And that's when a lot of people are going to get Mbomo in. But perhaps game week 10 or game week, we got that's in the past now. Game week 11 might be the time to get him in.
Yeah, I mean, we did say a couple of weeks back that these games might suit Brentford for those reasons, that the way they set up and they play. They've got West Ham next, and now West Ham for that one, Alvarez is suspended, and so is Lucas Paqueta. Yeah. So they're not, and given how they've played against Everton and Villa, that's a good fixture for Brentford now for Mbomo. They've been putting up decent numbers all season. There's not, he's the main man there without Ivan Toney, isn't they? So, I mean, I sold him last week, but I didn't really feel too disappointed at the weekend. I was always going to do that looking at the fixtures, I think. But they've won, I think, 3 in a row at Stamford Bridge now, haven't they? So they always tend to play well there. Yeah, there is. And if you held him, well done. And he's a definite hold now.
I mean, I've got, as I said, I've got sort of Bowen in that sort of category. That could move down. So looking at West Ham's fixtures, they've got Brentford next, then Nottingham Forest and Burnley, and then Crystal Palace, and then Tottenham and Fulham. So basically around sort of game week 14, 15, that's when I'm going to be swayed from Bomo, but perhaps I could be swayed even sooner. I know many people could be. Let's have a look at assists imminent. Lots of assists on our goals imminent table, but also a goal from Bomo. Let's see if it's... I mean, obviously the same players are going to be mentioned there. Szoboszlai, which we won't mention him again. He obviously got his assists there, so that's great. He fulfilled on the assist imminent table, and Bomo obviously got that assist. We've just spoken about him. And blanks all round. Eze obviously didn't play. Blanks, McNeil, blank, Kulusevski. We've spoken about Tottenham a lot last week, and it's basically Son is the main man to get, and Maddison. It's a very good second place, but great. But Kulusevski just can't get a look in. Even Richarlison's got more goal threat. But I will mention Salah. He didn't get us an assist, but he did get a goal. Now with Salah, I mean, I've had him since my wild card. You've got him in your wild card now. He's there
at last,
and he's doing what he does. He may not necessarily play as well. Darwin might be the main goal threat, but somehow Salah got a goal. I saw the goal. It was ridiculous. I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah.
That Matt Turner, I think, must have had him in his team or something, because he just literally just sort of gave him that goal.
But he's just relentless, isn't he? Salah. He just finds a way. He hasn't played particularly well in the last 3 games against Brighton and against Everton, but he just scores points, and it's a lot more enjoyable when he's in your team. I can confirm that, Joe, having tested that. And it's a bit like when people have sold Haaland, and I get why people did it, but it just makes match day. It's not very fun when you don't own these type of players a lot of the time. I mean, there's not much more to say on Salah, is he? Great option. The captaincy this week, I think if you own Haaland and him, most people will go for Haaland, but it wouldn't surprise me if Salah outscored him this week either.
Yeah, definitely. As I said about these tables, when Salah appears on assists imminent or goals imminent, he doesn't stay for long, because as he does what he does here, he starts getting goals, he starts getting assists, and he drops off. But he's certainly scoring more than creating more at the moment. But his creation stats are still very high. Ward-Prowse is at the top here. He blanked for us as well. A lot of people did go for Ward-Prowse. They perhaps couldn't get to Bowen, so they went for Ward-Prowse. I mean, it's partly Ward-Prowse is an issue. He's not taking his... Because Cresswell was back in the side, and Cresswell took quite a few of the set pieces over Ward-Prowse, I think. Which is weird, because Ward-Prowse is second to Beckham in terms of set pieces in the Premier League history.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be a long-term thing because I think Emerson was suspended at the weekend and he'll come back in. But I think the bigger concern for Ward-Prowse is Kudus, who started at the weekend. He made his first Premier League start. He took on the number 10 role. He was kind of floating everywhere, really, but that was his kind of designated position. And it meant that Ward-Prowse was further back. He didn't touch the ball once in the penalty box at the weekend, Ward-Prowse. And I think it will be deep again this weekend with Alvarez banned as well.
Okay.
That would concern me a bit if I was a Ward-Prowse owner, I think. And I would, despite good fixtures, I would probably be tempted to move him on, I think, if you haven't got other priorities.
Yeah. He is conveniently the same price as Matoma, and Brighton have great fixtures, top of the fixture tree. If Eze is back, Crystal Palace is second in our fixture tick over the next 6. And also Mbomo, who's just scoring relentlessly in FPL points. Moving down the list, just a couple more names. Dalot, Manchester United. We're not going to convince anyone by Manchester United, but they do have good fixtures. They've got Fulham, Luton and Everton up next, although Everton a bit better now. But so we won't. But Gibbs White is interesting still. Because they do have Aston Villa next in game week 11, but then they have West Ham and Brighton, Everton, Fulham and Wolves. It's quite a nice run, and even though obviously Brighton are a much better side, they can't stop conceding. So Gibbs White, I don't think is a bad shout for a cheeky differential in midfield for a short fixture run. What do you think?
Yeah, he was great last year, Gibbs White, but this year just hasn't managed to string much together. But he's on penalties. The fixtures are there for Forest as well. Yeah. He was never going to do much at Anfield at the weekend because Forest had Chris Wood got injured. Awani, he was only fit enough for the bench, so they went with Alanga up front, and it's always going to be a tough place to go Anfield. But Awani, he came on as a sub, so you'd expect him to start against Villa. Yeah. And I mean, it's hard for Gibbs White because of that competition in midfield at the moment. But if you want a real differential who has got potential upside, I don't hate the pick at all.
Okay. Before we move on to the goals imminent table for game week 11, just a reminder to those in the live chat and those watching and listening, do press that like button. Do give us a good rating, and also do subscribe so you don't miss out on all our videos all week. We've got videos all week. And Friday's team news, which I do with Neil, is a particularly important one. Not just because I do it, because Neil's there basically, and Neil will analyse all the press conferences. So that's really handy to get those sort of tips for those team sheets there. Welcome to loads more of you that joined us in the live chat. Foregone Conclusion, Matt Stitt, Lactic Bubble, Scott Speed, and many more. Thanks so much for joining us. Scott Speed says there is no good fixture for Manchester United at the moment. Perhaps indeed that is indeed true. Okay, let's move on to the goals imminent table for game week 11. So some of those names that we've already mentioned will still be on there because they haven't scored more. Now, I have reduced the number of shots on this one because I usually have a minimum of 10 shots, last 4 matches, maximum of 1 goal. But it only threw up a few names. And I wanted to expand it just to a few more. And I thought, well, to be honest, what's the difference between 9 and 10 shots? You know, in terms of tipping someone, you know, as a potential differential under the radar player to get. And that has expanded out to a few more names. So I'm quite pleased I did that. So we've got a few more names to consider there as well. So we'll start with Richarlison. I mean, we've already spoken about him, really. People aren't going to go there, but I'll just say his stats. 3 big chances missed, 3 shots on target, but he has had 13 shots in the last 4 matches he's played, and 9 of those have been inside the box. So these are good stats, and he's been underperforming by about 2 goals. So he should have scored 2 goals in the last 4, according to expected stats there. So Zanolo at Aston Villa, 5.5 million. Diaby, Watkins, Cash, and so on. They're going to be the names we look for Villa. Zanola has also got a betting charge hanging over his head, and he keeps going back to Italy to answer that. It's not like Tonali at Newcastle, where he's just said, right, yeah, fair cop, I'm off, I've got a problem, and then and here's his ban. But Zanola might not be banned. I mean, there's no to say he's guilty or innocent at this stage. But yeah, I mean, is he an option if he didn't have this ban over him?
Not really.
No.
And that's, he's a good player. He's come in
Yeah.
and he's actually stepped in really well. He suits the setup that we're currently playing in. He had 6 shots in the first 45 minutes at the weekend.
Wow.
Which is pretty incredible for 45. But then he was taken off at halftime for Bailey. And at first I thought that's got to be an injury, but I think it was Bailey played really well in the Conference League last week, and I think they are going to rotate a bit. But you've got Diaby there. I'm not as keen on him, but there's also Douglas Luiz as well. So there's other better midfielders which you can own than Zaniolo. But he's making an impact certainly, but it's just minutes are a concern.
Anana, if you need an enabler, 2 shots on target, 9 shots though, 5 inside the box, only 4.8 at Everton. I think we'll sort of won't dwell on him too much, but he's just there. Be aware he is an option in that bracket. He could get you a return. But next up is Morris at Luton. Now he doesn't look as good as he did when he first started, and that can happen when a promoted team comes up. They're pretty gung ho and excited to be in the Premier League, and then it's sort of the reality of being in the Premier League drops in. But nevertheless, he had 9 shots. Every single one of them has been inside the box, but just 1 on target, and that tells the story with Luton. He just can't find the net. He just can't find the target at all.
Yeah, he was really isolated at Villa Park at the weekend, and Luton are really struggling. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I actually thought Luton looked a little bit more robust than Sheffield United and Burnley, but they've really regressed in the past couple of weeks, I think. And you worry for them against Liverpool at the weekend. I mean, yes, it's at Kenilworth Road, which they do seem to create a bit more of a atmosphere and a bit more of a kind of team spirit there, but. I mean, the fixtures for Luton are really bad as well, aren't they? They've got Liverpool, Man United, Palace, Brentford, and Arsenal in the next 5. So absolutely,
and then City.
Oh, is it? I've only got the next 5 up, so it's a good job.
The 6th one is City. So you just said it's like the worst, and then it gets even worse than the worst.
It doesn't even get better then. So there's absolutely no reason to have Morris in your team at the moment. Some people might have because the overlap the overhang from the double game week, but there's so many good cheap forwards in and around that price point at the moment.
I would go for Pedro, even though he's not assured of minutes. Brighton's fixtures are really good. Everton, Sheffield United, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, Brentford and Burnley next 6. Pedro will not start every one of those. This is what you buy into. But De Zerbi has said that Pedro and Fati are in Brighton's best 11 at the moment. So, so if we think that, then their ideal front 4 is Adingra at the moment because March is injured, Pedro and Fati, and Ferguson will replace one of them because of rotation, and then Matoma. That's what they're going to be. But they played a slightly different system. They played 3 at the back last weekend. Yeah,
they did. Sorry, go on, Joe.
No, I was going to say with a sort of a box midfield, and then obviously Ferguson at top. But Ferguson wasn't the most advanced. It was Adingra and Matoma, especially Matoma. So that does bode well for all of those sorts of players, Pedro, Fati, etc.
Well, he scored, didn't he, Ferguson? But then I read some post-match quotes from De Zerbi after, and he didn't sound happy with Ferguson. He said he's not been at his best level. He said he had an okay game today, but generally he's not where he wants him to be. He hasn't progressed as much as he wanted him to. So if you're a Pedro, that's really good. Because I know quite a few people did go for Pedro on a wild card. I experimented with a draft with him on a 3-4-3 draft on Friday with him, and I was considering it as well. And so I think if you've gone for that, you just stick with it now. And then kind of go for, the schedule for Brighton, they've got a free midweek now, haven't they, Joe? So that helps for Everton at the weekend.
If we think Pedro is in his first 11, or De Zerbi has said that, and there's no rotation this week, then you would imagine Pedro's going to start.
Yeah, and then it's Ajax.
Yeah.
Then it's Sheffield United, which is the fixture which we all want our players to play in. And then it's an international break, isn't it? Yeah. So it's quite a complex schedule for Brighton at the moment. But if you own Joe Pedro, I think you should be confident of a start this week.
Yeah, I think so. So if you're going for that price point, then go for that. Others will go for Nketiah, but our colleague Praz got him in. Well done, Praz.
He did.
But he has also now said don't get him in because that was the time to get him in. Jesus will be
Yeah.
back soon. So he's saying he wouldn't recommend anyone get him in now.
It was a great move, and again, I played around. I played around with a little draft on Friday once we got the Jesus news. But in truth, I wasn't close to getting Nketiah. I was really sold on Martinelli, and that was my Arsenal punt, but it didn't come off. But yeah, fair play to Praz, because that's a great move to make. It's exactly what a wild card is sometimes about. It's it enables you to make those little short-term plays, gain a bit of an advantage over the field, and I mean, what a goal that third one was as well by Nketiah.
I mean, I love
brilliant.
I mean, I do actually think that's what FPL is all about in terms of it's almost specifically that differential striker. Now, I mean, the ones I remember that I've got in, even this season, I got Ferguson in, and he got his hat-trick. So I know exactly how Praz feels. Getting this differential, gets a hat-trick. Amazing. And a couple of seasons ago, was it 2, maybe 3 seasons ago, Chris Wood got a brace and an assist against Wolves, I think.
Wolves, wasn't it? Yeah, I can remember that.
And I shot up. I couldn't even believe how much I shot up the rankings, because no one had Chris Wood. And Chris Wood did the same again a couple of weeks ago. So people who had Chris Wood then. And that's why I play FPL, to get Chris Wood.
It's those moments, isn't it? You don't remember your Salah captain's halls. They're vital for it. They're vital for good. But it's those moments that you remember. I mean, a couple of years ago, I think I can remember captaining De Bruyne. Okay, that's a well-known player, but it was when he went to Wolves and he scored, what was it, 4 goals or something? And it's just those moments where you do something a little bit different. It's not to the extent of Nketiah. I'm not trying to play it like that, but it's just moments like that which really stand out for you. Even if you don't have a great season, it can be. I mean, it can be good.
Yeah, most of the time they won't pan out, but once a season, one of them will. You will get a hat-trick or a brace from one of these players.
Well, that was what I was really hoping for with Martinelli, but I picked the wrong Arsenal player.
Yeah, definitely. Joshua has said in the live chat, was Matoma playing more of a wing-back? Yes, but scratch the word back there. He was just playing the wing-back. But yes, nominally he was the wing-back, but he didn't go back at all.
Well, I had a look at it on Sunday, because I noticed that obviously as I own a Dingra too, and he was on the other side, wasn't he? But in terms of final third touches, I think that Mitoma actually had more in this game than he's had in the previous 6 or 7. Was his starting position a bit deeper than Joe? Was he receiving the ball, or was he just as advanced as he normally looks?
Mitoma as a skill set, and we showed his heat map last week, and he was red hot on the left coming into the box. That's what he does. That's either going to result in a pass or a shot. But that's where he hovers. So, yes, he might appear to be a wing-back, but he's not.
And do you think that system was specific to Fulham, who are a bit of a bogey team for you? Do you think he looked at ways in which he might be able to beat them?
I don't know. It could be to do with the injuries. So Welbeck's injured, March is injured. It could be, say maybe he wants to play for a little while 3 at the back. And so it could be to do with the injuries. I don't know. I mean, that's it. It's really hard, and we talk about this every week. Trying to predict him is really hard. But look at team news. We'll have a bit of analysis on his press conference. Also, the local paper, the Evening Argus. They can be found on Twitter, and obviously, just search Google for them. They're called Brighton Evening Argus. And also Andy Naylor at The Athletic. He used to be the Albion reporter at the Argus for ever. When I worked there, which was years ago. And he, so basically those guys are pretty embedded in it, and they do get good information there. So yeah, that's like we talked about a bit before on air. The good thing about Brighton is, even though we have a very complex manager with very complex team news and rotation at any whims, we do actually have quite a good media around Brighton, so we can actually find out a lot of these things. Unfortunately, some of that is after deadline. Which is not good for us, but at least we do get that information, and he's pretty forthcoming after the match about why he makes decisions about players.
Yes, yeah.
Next up, not a team with good spirits, Manchester United. We're speaking about Rashford, we're speaking about Manchester United. I still like Fernandes though. 10 shots, 4 of those on target, but just 2 inside the box. But he is always involved, and if they are to get a goal, I would not be surprised it'd be from him somewhere. He'll be involved somewhere, and he's on penalties. So Manchester United, I don't know with those fixtures. I think if you own Fernandes with Fulham, Luton, and Everton next, that is tricky. It's easy to sell him when he's got City, but I think if I owned him, I'd keep him.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with keeping him because he more so than Rashford has ticked over a little bit. And when Fernandes gets an assist, he's probably going to get bonus, and you're probably looking at 7-8 points, something like that. United are really concerning at the moment, the performances. They have just played a very, very good City side, though, who I thought were excellent with Grealish back in the team. I thought they were brilliant. Fulham, I'm looking at that fixture, though. I'm thinking that don't look easy for United at the moment, going away to Craven Cottage. And Luton, but then Everton, I'm thinking that ain't going to be easy for them. So it goes back to the comment in the section earlier that you don't look at these games. If it's Liverpool going to Fulham or something like that, you'd be like, yeah, great fixture. But it doesn't, it feels like it could be a struggle for United, even this. But Fernandes, like you say, if they're going to score, there's a good chance he's going to be involved in some way.
Yeah. So. Was it the Manchester United Fulham game last season where Fulham were definitely the best side and then they just went nuts and just all got sent off? Was that the one where Mitrovic was?
Yeah, that was at Old Trafford, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were amazing. By far the better side, Fulham, and then they just went insane.
Yeah, the problem is for Fulham this year is they've lost Mitrovic and they're struggling to score goals, aren't they, quite as much? But at Craven Cottage, I think that's the early kickoff on Saturday, isn't it? It's the first fixture of the game week. So, they could make it difficult for United. But if you own Fernandes, I think you can sell him, but I think you can keep him for that fixture as well.
Yeah, I think so as well, because a logical move, if people haven't already done it, is to move to Arsenal. But they have Newcastle next, but then they have Burnley at home. So this is probably not the time to get Saka in, but next week could be. So that could be something if anyone's got Fernandes.
Maybe, yeah. Although I am a bit concerned about Newcastle at the moment. They just seem to be, I've heard that Botman's going to be out for quite a bit longer. Tonale's obviously got the immediate ban. They've got Champions League. I don't know, just after that good run of fit, I've just watched Newcastle. I watched them against Wolves at the weekend. It just doesn't seem to be quite right for them defensively. So if you've got Arsenal players, I don't think it's bad to play. I think you can play them easily this week. But I don't know. We need to monitor that a little bit more, I think. Definitely. But just Newcastle, I'm not kind of looking at them as the same team that they were a few weeks back. But it'll be interesting to see how they get on if Botman is out for a few more weeks.
Haaland will be a popular captain this week, Man City. But it's Doku who's on our list here. He has had a couple of shots on target. He had 9 shots, 6 inside the box. Marginally underperforming, but none of those are big chances. But they play Bournemouth next. So if you do want to double up on Man City, but Grealish is sort of back in favour now, would you say? Will Doku get a chance? I mean, it's a great fixture, isn't it, Bournemouth?
Yeah, we need a leak, don't we, on Saturday, really, because it feels like you've got Grealish was like brilliant at the weekend. He's back. He's going to play a lot of games on the left wing. So then it feels like maybe Doku and Foden are maybe competing for that spot on the right. Foden's obviously playing well as well. He got 3 big chances at the weekend, scored the goal. If he plays, I really like Doku as a short-term punt, but longer term, there's going to be risk there because you don't know if he's going to play or not.
Eze's next. We've spoken about Eze on the grass at the moment, but not training with the full team. But he could be back this weekend, could be back the weekend after, could be back soon, basically. But I'll just say his stats here. He's had 11 shots in the last 4 matches he has played. 5 of those inside the box, 6 on target. That's great. So that means one of those long rangers was on target as well as perhaps all of those inside the box. 2 big chances, and he's only missed 1 of them, and he has scored a goal in his last 4. So it's just a reminder. We do that each week. Reminder, Eze, if he's back, he's a good option. Norgard, we've spoken about at Brentford, 5.5. There are other options, so I don't think people will go there. But it is worth noting that he's had 9 shots, 7 inside the box in his last 4 matches. So he is an option. And the last name on the list is Maddison, who I got rid of for Saka last week. I think they scored the same, so I got away with that one.
6 points.
And it enabled me to keep Son. I listened to everyone who was not in the live chat, because it was on our video that we do, a team reveal video. And there was one poster said, had you consider, because I was going to do Son and Neto to Saka and Matoma, and someone in the live in the chat was saying, had you considered doing Maddison to Saka and Neto to Adingra, and because it's the same price, and I did indeed go for that. I followed their advice because it was good, because I was too caught. I thought I had loads of money tied up in Maddison, but I had exactly the same amount of profit. Which I forgot the Son had gone up so much since I owned him.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. I think Son in this setup, they're both good, but I think if you have to pick one because of the points weighting in FPL, you want the goal threat, and that's what Son is.
Yeah.
And I think he's a potential captain in game week 13 as well.
But Maddison left my team with a heavy heart, and these stats prove why. He has already scored. He's had a couple of big chances.
Yeah.
He's had 4 shots on target. He started all 4 of his last 4 matches, not a sub at all. 6 shots inside the box out of 11. So he's got the lot. He's not in my team anymore. I'm a bit nervous, but I have got Son. So there we go.
Yeah, not terrible fixtures, but not great either. No. So you probably don't need the attacking double up for this period, I'd say.
No, Chelsea are coming up next. Then they've got Wolves and Aston Villa. Then Man City. So that block of 4. And actually it goes on. Then they've got West Ham and Newcastle. They range from difficult to I can't quite predict. And even though Tottenham are top at the moment, I'd be very surprised if after that little fixture run, they're still top of the league. But you never know.
Yeah, I mean, they dug in on Friday. I mean, Palace made it really difficult in the first half, and Spurs were really struggling. But that's the sign of a good team, isn't it? That you come out the other side and you get the victory and you hold on. And Van der Ven looks like a great defender for them. I hadn't watched quite as much as him as I had recently, but he's just come in and he's so quick and strong. I think these are going to be great matches. I love watching Tottenham at the moment, and they've got some big games coming up.
One of the benefits of playing the Sky game is because you start to look at things like successful passing stats, because you get bonus in that game for it. And Romero and Van der Ven, I mean Romero in particular, but they're not getting booked. They're passing out. They're starting to play. Them and the goalkeeper. It's just it's a great setup. So they've really improved.
I mean, it's unbelievable what Ange has done with Romero, because he looked like a liability all last season, didn't he? Diving into tackles, getting like yellow cards, and now he just seems like this kind of composed figure at the back. He's always had the ability, but it's just been controlling that temperament and the aggression that he shows, because you want that aggression, but you don't want too much of it. I mean, it's just been... What a turnaround for Spurs in the first 10 game weeks. Incredible.
Romero got bonus again, I believe, in FPL. He certainly didn't start.
He did.
Assist imminent table, game week 11. Once again, this is the last 4 matches. You have to have created at least 7 chances and have a maximum of 1 assist. So once you've got more than 1 assist, you're off the table in a good way. If you fail to get to the expected assist delta stats here, which basically about underperforming, then you're off the table as well in a bad way. But McNeil's top. Won't talk about him too much. He has created 12 chances though for Everton his last 4 matches, 9 successful crosses. So an option of 5.4. Ward-Prowse we've spoken about, set to probably play deeper with their midfield issues this coming weekend. 6.2 million. If you can afford to go up a bit to Matoma or indeed Mbomo, I'd possibly advise that. 19 corners, 14 chances created, 12 successful crosses. Good stats though. So if you do get rid of him, he could notch up a couple of assists in a game quite easily. Eze's next. We've spoken about him as well. He is still due an assist as well as a goal. When he returns, just to say his stats again: 7 successful crosses, 9 chances created, 12 corners, and he has scored and he has assisted last 4. When he comes back, he's going to take a lot of managers by surprise, because Palace's fixtures are really good this next run, and he's really good. Kulusevski's next. We've spoken about him. Just read out his stats: 7 chances created, 6 corners, 3 successful crosses. He's going to be an also ran behind Maddison, I think, for a second Spurs. But those fixtures probably aren't conducive to double Spurs attack. Next up is Phil Foden. I've got a sort of Phil Foden blink. I can't get him into my team. Every time I do, he gets dropped for something ridiculous, like, I don't know, going to a party or something, or I don't know, or I don't know, even like not kicking the ball in the right way on a certain occasion or something. But he just seems so precarious to own. But he has created 8 chances, he has taken 7 corners, he has scored, and he has had 3 successful crosses the last 4. And he plays Bournemouth next. So a good option still. It's probably just me being biased.
I think sometimes in FPL, it depends what experiences you've had with players, and that tends to affect you mentally a little bit, doesn't it? I've actually had good experience with Foden, so I don't have that. There's loads of other players which I've had bad experiences with who I won't touch. But Foden, I mean, he started every game since game week 3 now.
Yeah.
So he's on a long first team run.
That's because I haven't had it got in my team. That's why he's starting.
That normally means he's going to be dropped soon. But and I do wonder that if this weekend maybe he goes with Doku and Grealish. So I think if you're looking at him, ideally you'd get elite. Look at what the Man City predictors, look at what Neil's saying in his team news on Friday. And then go from there. The problem is for City, and yes, it's City and they can beat everybody, but most people have probably got Haaland. So then do you want Foden for Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham and Villa, which is the run after Bournemouth? Yeah. But then if you've just played a wild card or something, or if you've got a good squad and you can maybe bring Foden in if he does play and then move him to maybe like another Arsenal midfielder at the week after, that might not be a bad idea. It just depends on your squad, what you can designate transfers to and that kind of thing. But when he plays, he's obviously a good option.
Definitely. Just move on to a few of the other names. In the live chat, FPL Spartans has pointed out Romero is more than 140 passes, successful passes. I hope you have him in Sky, Joe. Yes, I do. So that's huge. that's Lewis. That's almost Lewis Dunk levels of huge.
Wasn't it Rodri last year who broke the record in a match or something? I can remember you saying that. Was that 200 plus? Wasn't it?
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Rodri is another gem in the Sky game for that, because he's got a bit of everything. But yeah, if you're racking up more than 100 successful passes in a game, you know that defense is pretty good. They're pretty good at passing out from the back. Okay, a few more names. A lot we mentioned already. Gibbs White there. I'll just read out his stats. We have mentioned him. 10 chances created, 12 corners, 7 successful crosses. Quite good stats. And Nottingham Forest fixtures are quite good over the next few, featuring Brighton's porous defence, Fulham, Wolves, Everton, West Ham and Aston Villa. Aston Villa's a tough one, obviously. But yeah, not bad. Salah, we've mentioned. He's on the assist. He keeps scoring, but he's still due an assist. 8 chances created, no assists. He has had 5 goals, though. So we'll forgive him. No successful crosses. So he's just not crossing at all. He's becoming more selfish, Salah. And also some of his goals are a bit unusual. I don't know how the expected stats and things pick up things like that, like Matt Turner, like giving him the ball and that type of thing. But oh well. And a couple more names to mention. Doherty at Luton. We mentioned that Luton are really bad fixtures, but nevertheless, Doherty, good stats. Last 4 he's played. 14 corners, 11 chances created, 11 successful crosses. Very good stats there. 4.4. So could be a differential if it wasn't for the awful fixtures. Willian at Fulham. Now, Willian could be getting us some returns by next week. He faces Manchester. It is Manchester United next. He's had created 8 chances, taken 8 corners. He has scored. He's had 4 successful crosses, marginally underperforming. And Willian keeps trucking along. I mean, I think he's been, we've been talking about Willian for, I don't know, feels like decades.
Yeah, I mean, good player, still playing at a high level. You just worry with Fulham that all of these created chances, who's going to put them away? Because Mitrovic is obviously left, so they're rotating between Raul Jimenez and Carlos Vinicius now, and neither fill me with that much confidence. No. So, yeah, I think again, I like Willian as a player, but I wouldn't buy him now.
Thanks again to FPL Spartans in the live chat. He's reminded about Lewis Dunk's amazing passing ability. He, of course, got maximum passing bonus in the Sky game. This won't mean much to people playing FPL, but basically it meant that he had 70 successful passes in 23 minutes. So after the first 23 minutes, he racked up what most mere mortal defenders can only dream of for the entire match. And that was just like Lewis Dunk just breezing past those stats. So, it's still a good option. I think. let's move on to best differential. So this will be some of the names that we've already spoken about, but I haven't put a filter on it for basically 6%. So I did it at sort of 5%, but I have included a couple of, I think Wilson's on here at 5.2 and Szoboszlai at 5.6. It would be silly to just arbitrarily cut off at 5% ownership when you've got 5.6, but they're probably going up.
I do sometimes in the differential column. If I generally try and stick to 5, but there are certain instances where you think this player needs to be in there anyway, and we will go slightly over. Callum Wilson was in the differentials last week, but I think he was about 4.8 then, so he's gone up after that brace.
And he's still really high.
Still a good option.
Still around 95% of the game don't own him.
Yeah.
Isak is out for the next 2 games, so Wilson will play, and so that is against Arsenal and Bournemouth. Bournemouth in particular is going to be good. His old team. He's had 7. Yeah, he's scored 7 goals this season. He's only started 4 games, so he's going to start the next 2. And his minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty every 101 minutes, so pretty much every game. So he's expected a goal involvement every game. Pretty good.
They've got. I mean, the only thing with Wilson is that they've got Carabao this week, and they've got Dortmund, I think, in the middle of those next 2 games. Can Wilson play all of those 3 games? I don't know. I mean, maybe he can.
I mean, I don't know who else they would have. Would they play perhaps Gordon?
I think they'll play Gordon up front in that Bournemouth game if they need it. If Wilson had played against Arsenal, which he will, and against Dortmund, because that having lost the last game to Dortmund, that's extra significance on that now. Then it's Bournemouth. Do they then say, or do they push him to the limit knowing that Isak is back? They might do that. But if they were going to say, this is Bournemouth, we'll take you out against your former club, we won't play you, it'd probably be Gordon, wouldn't it? I would have thought.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the moment where those watching this back who own Gordon are just suddenly like pressing pause and then rewind. Did they really say? So basically, yes, if you own Gordon, he could very well be the number 9 against Bournemouth's absolutely woeful defence. So maybe. Certainly, you might want to keep him. So Wilson there, a good option, I think, and I'm not going to cut him off because at 5.2%, he's a really good differential. I've sorted this by minutes per expected goal involvement. There is one player better than Wilson. So Wilson is second in this list in terms of minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty. So it's not including penalties. And that's Fatty at Brighton. No starts all season. He has started in Europe, but not here. He comes on. But he has nevertheless scored 2 goals. We spoke about him last week. He makes the most of his sub-appearances. He's created 2 chances and he's scored 2 goals. And he's got 16 points from no starts. So if we De Zerbi is to believe and Fatty is in the best Brighton 11 and they don't have rotation issues this week because they're out of the Carabao Cup, I'm gonna by the end of the week, unless I hear differently, predict that Fatty starts. And I think he's according to this, he's the best ultra differential. 6.5 million could be good. People are going to go for Matoma, aren't they? But Mavericks might go Fatty.
Feels like a bit of a lottery in that Brighton team, nailing who actually not only starts, but who gets the points. If you've got a front 4 at the weekend of Pedro, Fatty, Matoma and Adingra, got no idea who's going to come out of that one with the most points. It's not like where you've got a real talisman. It's just split between multiple players, isn't it? And that's why maybe I thought that I'd go for the cheapest in Adingra because it's quite hard to predict. But Matoma, when I watch Brighton, you might think differently. But he's the one that I think is going to make something happen. So if you own him, I think he's still
Matoma's going to get the minutes. He's going to stay on longer. He is going to. He always looks great. Adingra, I think, looks great as well. But I don't know if he's going to share some minutes with Buonanotte, but Buonanotte was due to go out on loan in the summer, so clearly he's not in favour. And so I do think that Adingra, I think people are safe with Adingra. I think he's going to. So Adingra might not start, for example, Buonanotte might, but then you'll start see Adingra coming on for like significant minutes, like second half or something like that.
Has Buonanotte been getting a bit of a hard time from the fans recently,
Not particularly.
Joe?
No.
Oh, okay, all right.
No,
I don't
no.
know. I don't know where I
It's
saw
like
that.
it's like with Undav as well. Fans loved him. He was great,
Right,
scoring.
okay.
Always looked good. Always looked committed. And then he was out. He's been out on loan, and we could. Well, I don't know if we could do with him. We've got loads of strikers, but it would be nice to have him still in the squad and scoring goals for Brighton. But but no, they don't. I mean, Brighton fans are quite good with their. I mean, we're like good in the Premier League and in Europe. We used to, used to play Hereford and teams like that. So
Yeah, no, yeah, you're just going to enjoy the ride, and I mean, it's nice to have the volume of options. I don't know what it was. Maybe I read that he was struggling when he was coming in off limited game time or something like that. I'm sure I read something about it, but yeah, obviously not the fans who are getting on his back. So.
I was reading something today actually, just as an aside, on their goalkeepers. The De Zerbi's had a quote suggesting that the goalkeeper rotation is now over. That he feels that Verbruggen isn't quite there with Brighton's style of play, but Jason Steele is the goalkeeper that is there with that, and that's a strong hint that Steele is the number one, and Verbruggen
he's cheaper as well, isn't he? He's 4.3, is he? I think, but the problem is that Brighton concede a lot of goals. If they could tighten up a bit, it'd be great, wouldn't they?
No, that's why Stupinan is the one I go for. I've got Lamptey on my bench as well. Because I'm not anticipating a clean sheet. I just want attacking returns.
No, you want,
but you can get the odd assist from Steele. He's very good at that.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
Right, next up, your team, Aston Villa, Bailey. We briefly mentioned him. He came on, as you said, weekend. He's been very effective in Europe, been very effective whenever he comes on. 2 assists from his 2 starts and 3 goals. See, that's really good. 3 goals and 2 assists, just 2 starts all season. His minutes per expected goal involvement non-penalty is 114 minutes, so just behind Wilson. He's good, isn't he? 5.5. Bailey, he's tempting, isn't he?
Well, it's funny with Bailey. He got a run in the first team last year and he wasn't consistent. He's been dropped to the bench and now he's playing consistently. When he comes on, every week he's making an impact, but we just don't know if he'll start. Zaniolo's there. When we put Cash, which I don't think will happen very much, but if Cash were to move into that right wing role, then Bailey wouldn't have a chance either. And I don't think either. No. So, I don't think you can go for him in FPL, but it is really good to see. If Zaniolo were to get if the ban were to come to fruition, or if he were to get an unfortunate injury or something like that, then Bailey, you might be able to talk about him a bit more. But in the current setup, it's too risky. No.
Next name, Chris Wood. He's injured. We don't know the extent of that, so he could be back this weekend, might not be, but currently he's flagged. But nevertheless, I spoke about him before as a good differential. He's certainly done me proud, and he's also done those who got him in maybe a couple of weeks ago. I think it was like sort of the week before a wild card, so people did go for Chris Wood there. 28 points, just 2 starts, but 3 goals, and a minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty every 136 minutes, only 0.9% owned. I should mention some of the ownership of the others I mentioned there. Fatty, 0.8% owned, massive differential. Wilson, 5.2%, and Bailey, just 1.1% owned there. Next name up, Calvert-Lewin. We have spoken about him and about Everton's form. 1.1% owned again. Minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty over 142 minutes. 5 starts, so he's getting the starts now, and he scored 3 goals. And you've spoken about, he's actually good. He's a good option now. I feel safe with Calvert-Lewin.
And I think the fixtures I think they're all right. They play Brighton at home, then Palace away, Man United at home, Forest away. Yeah. So they don't jump out as being great fixtures, but I actually think the home games against Brighton and Man United, you would expect Everton to score in those, I think. So, and Calvert-Lewin's good. He's 5.8 million on penalties. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I think, Jota is next. Rotation is going to be a problem, but that's slightly eased, but through very unfortunate circumstances. He was not due to start the last match. He pretty much said that it was going to be Darwin Núñez, Diaz and Salah. But Diaz, obviously, for those that don't know, his parents were kidnapped. His mum was released. I don't know what's happened with his dad. His dad is still been kidnapped.
I think they were calling the military and weren't they to help them with their efforts to find him.
So he's obviously in no fit state to play. and so that will continue until he hopefully is reunited with both his parents. But so in the meantime, Jota will play. So I mean, it seems unfortunate to say, to get a player because he'll play for this reason. But yeah, it's like when other players get injured and things. But it's an unfortunate circumstance. So I think Jota will be should play the next couple at least. 7.7 million, 1.4% owned, and 5 starts he's had, and he's scored 3 goals, and he's on 32 FPL points. So I think he's a pretty good option if we think he's going to start, which I think he should.
I think he probably will, because Gakpo came on at the weekend, but I think he's probably going to replace Darwin in those games. Yeah. So I think that left spot, you could play Darwin on the left, but I don't see why you would. He's playing so well through the middle. So you'd think Jota plays left, and he's a good option. A few people punted on him for the Merseyside derby just before they wildcarded, and it didn't quite come off that move. But I think away at Luton, you've got Salah and Jota in there. I think you're going to come up pretty well from that.
I think it's a good differential there. I'll do like I do with the goals imminent and assists imminent table. I'll do a thing next week just to run through this. How well these tips came off. So well done anyone who, if they do hopefully score or get assists. Eze we've spoken about at length here, and just to put him on there, just to remind, I put him on here because I forgot everyone had got rid of him, and because in my head Eze was still like 20% owned. And I thought people had just forgotten him and left him in the sea, but he's only 3.2% owned. So when he comes back, ultra differential, and then people are going to start to get him in, because according to these stats, with a goal and an assist across his 7 starts, and 18 chances created last this season in the matches he's played, and he's been injured for a lot of that. I think people go for him. Next name, Palmer at Chelsea. 5 million on penalties, been confirmed now. He's scored 2 goals across 4 starts, 29 FPL points. Minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty of 169 minutes. So not too shabby on those stats, considering his main threat is now penalties. His ownership's only 4% owned, and his 12 chances created. My thoughts with Palmer is that in game week 15 or 16. 16 they play Everton, but they play Manchester United in game week 15. And current form, Manchester United are a worse side than Everton. So around that time, I'm thinking of getting him in for Adingra. And that's another reason I got Adingra in, because Adingra has got really great fixtures way up until game week 16. So I haven't got to rush that move. And then after that, for Christmas, I'll get Palmer in, and for over that December period, and move Adingra on.
He was unlucky at the weekend, Palmer, wasn't he, against Brentford? He was pretty electric in that first half. Yeah. Fixtures really tough. Tottenham, Man City, Newcastle, Brighton and Man United. But if you own him, you'll probably be happy to park him on the bench for some of that, because he's 5 million. Yeah. You've got Christopher Nkunku coming back as well.
Yes.
But they're not going to rush him back, are they? I wouldn't have thought. And even so, I think Cole Palmer can't be dropped at the moment. No. He's playing that well for them. So decent option. You probably won't want to play him in all of those matches, but you don't have to at that price.
No, I mean, Tottenham, Manchester City, Newcastle next 3, and then Brighton, and then Brighton. So that's tough. But from attacking point of view, the Brighton match is pretty good. So the next 3 are just awful fixtures. I just wouldn't get him in for that.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't get him in. I think I wouldn't mind playing him against Tottenham, I don't think. Yeah. But just because Fulham had chances, didn't they, when they played them last Monday or whenever it was. So, not terrible option.
Okay, before we move on to the last 2 or 3 names, who we've mentioned some of them in detail anyway, do remember to put some questions in the live chat. We'll just do a quick live chat Q&A at the end there, so do put some questions in the live chat. I've already seen one question in there from Brian, which I've just answered inadvertently. It was about Adingra or Palmer for a cheap enabler. Adingra, then Palmer, because that's the way if you play the fixtures. If you don't play the fixtures, just get Palmer in. But fixture-wise, Adingra, then Palmer. But keep that price point. So I've already answered that earlier. Okay, so next name here, speaking of Brighton again, is Pascal Gross, who keeps getting returns. He's one of those players, a bit like Szoboszlai, who is next on the list. Gross is only 1.5% owned. Everyone's looking at Matoma, Dingra, Pedro, Fati, but Gross is there racking up the assists, racking up the goals. 2 goals this season and an assist, 36 FPL points. He was the top scoring Brighton midfielder last season, remember? And this is how he does it. He just gets involved. He's had 8 starts, and he only hasn't started because of injury. He doesn't get rotated. He's created 19 chances. An option. I'm starting to see him in some teams in mini leagues.
Yeah, I feared the worst when I saw the lineup at the weekend because I thought, "Ooh, has he gone to right back again?" Just because I didn't know they were going to be playing a back 3, but it worked out that he was in midfield anyway, wasn't he? He got the assist, he got bonus, which he tends to get when he gets an attacking return. And I mean, add it to the list. There's a lot of good options at Brighton, isn't there? But minutes is a bit like Szoboszlai. Minutes are his appeal, aren't they?
Yeah.
So.
And Szoboszlai, I'll read out his stats. We've spoken about him at length. Great option to get in. 7 million, 44 FPL points. That's really good. Same as Callum Wilson. He has scored. He has got 4 assists. These are good stats. And he started 10. And he's played pretty much all of those as well. Doesn't get subbed off. Only 5.6% owned. So that's creeping up. It's probably a bit more than that now. He's created 25 chances, and he's created more chances than any other player on this list of ultra differentials. And lastly is a Dingra, who we have also spoken about there. Although his minutes per expected goal involvement non-penalty stats are quite poor, 368 minutes. So he's had 5 starts, but he has scored twice. He has got an assist. So for a 5 million player, who, because March is out, he probably is the number 1 to be on the right there. 2 goals and an assist from 5 starts for 5 million at 0.8% owned is really good. That's a player to get in, especially with fixtures that Brighton's, Everton, Sheffield United, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, Brentford, Burnley, they are top of the fixture ticker. So, but we have spoken about him. Hey, let's see if there's any questions. Do put some questions in now, and we've got a bit of time, so let's have a look. So a lot of them are sort of Brian's question about Dingra we've already answered there. Michael Scott, would you start Nketiah away to Newcastle or Palmer away to Spurs? Oh, that's a good question. So Nketiah will be in a few teams, Palmer will be in a few teams, both good options, both could score, both got tough games. Which of those two would you play?
It's tough, that one, because I don't think that I think Newcastle, it's probably a good time to play them. And I just said a minute ago that I think that Spurs can look sometimes pretty open on the counter in home games. I think I'd slightly edge towards Palmer, because you got penalties, and that normally swings the balance in that player's favour for me. If you're not sure about it. I normally go with the guy with that route to points as well. Yeah,
it's exactly how I think. If someone's got a choice in a defender and attacker, always favour the attacker. If it's 2 players who both got tough games, but one has penalties, always favour the penalty taker. So yeah. But I'm just imagining me having Nketiah in my team and seeing him as first sub, and that fills me with horror.
Well, after watching what he did at the weekend. I can understand that. It's quite a difficult decision to make, that one. But
I probably would favour Palmer in this one. Jack Flash Poet. Good question here. Best Botman replacement. Many people, including myself, we'll talk about this on our team reveal video this week, because it's a transfer I'm going to make in terms of a cheap defender. But best Botman replacement. Who is your best 1 or 2 names that you would replace Botman with at that price?
I'd either go Tsimikas or I'd go for a Palace defender, probably Gahey, because he's cheaper. Anderson is obviously, if you got on him early, then that's fine, but I wouldn't pay that additional 0.5 or whatever it is now.
No. I mean, I've got Anderson in my team, but I didn't pay 5 million for him. So it's like with Son's price. I didn't even know he'd gone up that much. But I guess it's because he's. At the time he was the top scoring defender or one of the top scoring defenders, so people are looking at that and his price and just sort of getting him in quite
And
rightly.
yeah, Anderson's been ticking along for a while.
Yeah.
He's still the top. He's pretty. I think he's a top scoring defender now, isn't he?
Yeah,
He's
I think
not.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would go for that price. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think Simicast is top because he's nailed on. Robertson's going to be out, so he will get those league games and he will get a clean sheet. I don't think he's going to get too much more. He might get the odd bonus, maybe an assist, but it's mainly those clean sheets. Him.
Yeah, sorry. Just to clarify, that Anderson is the second top scoring defender behind Trippier, who is 5 points out.
Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, that's why I sort of hesitate because I thought he can't still be there because Trippier just racking up apart from this weekend, he's racking up a lot of points. Okay. So Simicast there and a Palace defender. I completely agree. I'm complete agreement there. I wouldn't be looking at anywhere else apart from those two.
No.
Daffyd, he said he's terrified of Haaland this week, so he's free hitted to get him in. Okay, well, he's terrified. Non-Haaland has got me from 1.8 million to 180k. Has non-Haaland though? Was that because you perhaps wildcarded Daffyd and got lots of other players in anyway? Because I've certainly gone up quite a lot in the rankings by keeping Haaland. So I see this a lot on Twitter. People saying, the Haaland lists have really succeeded, but you can get a really good team with Salah and Haaland. That's not a problem.
But I'd argue by using the free hit this week,
no,
it's not. That probably wasn't part of the plan when you decided to go without Haaland. So you have to stick. Yeah. I think you need to. I said it to somebody last week that they said, "Oh, let's take some hits and get him back in for Man United." But I think if you said you're going to do it, I don't think you should free hit this week. I think you should see that through now because after they play Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham and Villa, and then you get back on him. Because now you haven't got a free hit and that could be really... Yeah. So yes, it's worked so far, but now you haven't got Haaland. You're having to free hit. I don't think I would have done that.
Very sort of selective reasoning for getting rid of Haaland is been thinking but going Haaland has done well because you've also got Watkins, because you've also got Son. But people who've got Haaland have also got Watkins and also got Son and those sorts of players. And also, as you said, is the people, because it's optimal to get rid of, it was so-called optimal a couple of weeks ago to get rid of Haaland. It's probably less optimal now because he's playing Bournemouth. But also then the people that did that know exactly, this is what you were suggesting, Tom. People who did that know exactly what they were buying into. They were buying into that plan. They were saying, I'm going to get rid of Haaland game week, 8, and I'm not going to get him back until, say, game week, 16 or whatever. And that's what they're buying into, and they've got a plan around that. And by Haaland getting absolute haul against Manchester United, this doesn't change. You've still got Bournemouth next, so you should still have the same plan. So, I do agree. I
think so.
I hope he hasn't pressed the free hit button or he's playing your plan, but if he has, well then... there we go. It's a free hit, so stock up on City.
Yeah, you could still make it work because you target that City game and that Liverpool game, and you maybe go for a player like Jota as well as Salah, and you look to try and nail that Man City winger. But I'm just thinking that if you said no Haaland, it was obviously a plan for 6, 7, 8 game weeks, and I think I'd just stick with it now. Yeah. So
Daffyd is just pointing out that he hasn't actually used his wildcard yet. He's wildcarding in a game week 15 or 16 or so. So my comment about those that are saying they did well being Haaland lists, that's off probably because they've got lots of other players in, but people who wildcarded with Haaland and Salah also got lots of good players in. But so that wasn't directed specifically at Daffyd because he hasn't wildcarded yet. But the main thing is he's done really well. So
and I guess players like I guess if you did if you did take out Haaland on a wild card, you've probably had Darwin and Watkins, and both of those players have been doing very well. This was always the concerning fixture when you did that. Yeah. This Bournemouth game was they've got a week's rest. City he could easily score a hat-trick at the weekend, but I just think you've just got to kind of stick your armband on Salah and hope that he can do a bit of damage on Sunday. It was a very good fixture.
Yeah, and also just a bit of kudos to Daffyd there. Getting rid of Haaland with a wild card still to play is very different to getting rid of Haaland on a wild card, because you can wild card out of that decision, which he can do, whereas it's a bit more difficult to get Haaland in unless you got.
Yeah, probably take three transfers, probably maybe 2 if you're dependent on who you're selling. Right.
N asks, who do we prefer out of Calvert-Lewin and Ferguson for game weeks 11 to 14?
Calvert-Lewin.
I would say that, but because of De Zerbi's comments recently about Ferguson, I think Ferguson is the better striker now, and he plays for a more attacking side. But yeah, I agree with you. If you're looking for
it's just the minute, it's the minutes risk, isn't it? Yeah.
Calvert-Lewin is the main man, and Ferguson is one of the main men. Many of them there. Okay. Omar, bench one of Saka, Gordon, or Dingra. Okay. Now Dingra plays Everton away. Gordon has Arsenal, and obviously Saka has Newcastle. That's quite tough, actually.
Yeah, that's really tough. My first instinct was Dingra. But Gordon now, and maybe I definitely wouldn't bench Saka.
No.
That I would rule that out straight away. I would get him in your starting 11. And then I think it's either Gordon or a Dingra. I think Gordon has got obviously the much tougher match there.
Yeah.
But it's at home.
Yeah.
He's becoming very important in that team. And a Dingra, and I think his minutes are more secure as well, Gordon, because I think a Dingra could, I think we're going to see some early subs. I think he is first choice, like you say, Joe, but I think that if he's not working, a 60th minute sub wouldn't surprise me in some games. So I think I'd be tempted to play the two from that match, but it is really close.
Yeah, I'm a Brighton fan, so I'm biased, so I played Dingra.
Yeah, so you would bench Gordon?
I would bench Gordon, yeah.
Okay, so. It is close.
It is close, though. I just think Gordon has a tougher match. That's what it's down to, not even looking at price or anything.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I wouldn't definitely bench a Dingra. That's just the way I'm swaying now.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but it's between those two. Yeah, Saka, you don't bench Saka.
No.
JWP to Matoma or Mbomo. I think logically Matoma then Mbomo because they're similar price and Matoma has better fixtures. But as we talked about earlier, Mbomo is actually quite good in the tougher games because Brentford play a 3-5-2 and he's more up front. So
was the question? Sorry, was it just a Matoma or Mbomo?
Yeah, he's going to move Ward-Prowse out for one of those two. And he's deciding on which one.
I would be tempted to just get Mbomo because I think if you don't get Mbomo now, you're going to want to get him in for that Luton fixture in game week 14. So if you move him to somebody else, I just think you're creating transfers further down the line.
Wouldn't you want Matoma for that game week 12 fixture against Sheffield United?
I would like him for that, absolutely. Providing he plays, which he should do, shouldn't he? Even though after Ajax, but then international break. Oh, it's quite, I guess it depends on the rest of your team. If you think you can focus transfers into that spot and not have to take hits, do it. I'm just thinking of the bigger picture that do you want to be bringing in somebody in and then bringing up over? It depends who else. If you've got another midfielder you can sell around 14, then do that.
Yeah. And I think long term Bomo, but for me, once again Brighton bias, but for me, I think I like that the same rationale. I've got a Dingra and then Cole Palmer. It's just fixtures play. I think Matoma is better fixture, so Matoma then Mbomo. But yeah, if you've got other things to do with transfers, just get Mbomo. Lewis asks, would you get rid of Julian Alvarez and Bowen for Watkins and Chan at
not this week? Not this week. No,
not this week. I wouldn't get rid of Alvarez against Bournemouth. I think that's asking for trouble. I wouldn't get rid of Bowen.
And even Bowen. I mean, it's not a great fixture at Brentford, but I think you're fine to play him. So
then they've got Nottingham Forest at home afterwards. So although Nottingham Forest are better on the road than last season. No, I just would not do that move. I think you'll move
not this week. No,
two good players.
Alvarez is. Yeah, Alvarez looks like he'll be a great option this weekend.
Ahmed, would you sell Bowen for a Brighton asset? He's thinking Matoma. So Bowen for Matoma.
Well, I just think West Ham have been really poor in their past 3 games in all competitions. So I don't mind that. I think that when you're selling players like Bowen, it's always a bit of risk with the fixtures coming up, but it just depends if you want to attack these Brighton games. I don't think you have to do it this week. So like we said earlier, I don't think Everton is an easy game. Maybe you want to kind of just play Bowen this week and then look at it in game week 12, potentially making the move when we might get that Sheffield United fixture is massive for Brighton, and it will give you more information because you get to watch the Ajax game and then make a decision after that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I sympathise with Ahmed here. I do have Bowen. I've only had him a couple of weeks, and he's already got me a return in one of those weeks, blanked in one of them. So that's just not long enough for me to get rid of him.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah, as the weeks go on, because Brighton's fixtures are still good, and they're playing, say, for example, Sheffield United game week 12, then game week 12, I might be thinking, oh, maybe that could be tempting actually, but I'm not going to do it this week. Best forward at 6 million and under.
Calvert-Lewin.
Calvert-Lewin or Pedro. But if you get Pedro, you're buying into rotation. He might not start, but he might still get you returns. I've got time for a couple more. Trying to find ones with question marks. Omar is basically saying about Pedro for Morris is what he's thinking. Yeah, I mean, I think. I mean, as long as you know what you're buying into. Lots of questions about Matoma and Bomo. It's got that's. I mean, I think we both agree they're both great players, so you can't. I don't think you can go wrong. But I would do Matoma personally, Bomo, and Tom is more just go get him Bomo because you want him in soon anyway. Rixia, play Trippier or play Taylor? Was that Charlie Taylor who scored his first goal in 8 years?
Trippier.
Trippier. Yes. Best Neto.
He'll probably concede. I think they both probably concede though. Because I don't trust Burnley to keep a clean sheet against anybody. No. Even though Palace aren't great going forward, they should score. And then so attacking returns, you'd back Trippier over Charlie Taylor any day of the week for an assist. So.
And best Neto replacement. I would.
There's quite a few.
Yeah, it depends on your budget. What you go for? I would say a Dingra or Palmer if you want to go down a bit.
Gordon maybe, or Hwang. The only concern there with him is that Neto's going to be out, and that's the main source of the creativity in that team.
I would not go near Wolves attack without Neto personally.
I agree.
I would go a Dingra or Palmer. And
go cheap.
Cheaper and save a bit of money. But he might have if he's got a tiny bit more, then he might be able to do something with it. Byrne and Gordon out for Branthwaite and one of Mbomo Matoma. Everyone wants Mbomo Matoma at the moment, which may sway me in game week 12 when I see that Sheffield United game for Matoma go for a double up in midfield. Byrne and Gordon out for Branthwaite. Bomo,
I'd keep Gordon. You would do it, would you? Yeah.
Well, if I had 2 free transfers, but I don't like. Yeah, I think I probably would because I do think Mbomo or Matoma. I think it's good to get that price point.
I don't think you have to sell Gordon though. I think that I was looking at him last week, and it's a tougher fixture against Arsenal, but he's becoming a key cog in that. And then they play Bournemouth the week after. So I think you could sell Byrne because I don't think you're probably only going to play him against Bournemouth in the next 4 fixtures.
Actually, no, I'm gonna. You've convinced me. I don't
think it's a bad move. Like we're talking about good players like Matoma. They can all call on any given day, but I just think Gordon, you might want to give him a little bit more time.
As you said, the Newcastle game away to Bournemouth. That's a tough fixture schedule for Newcastle. Isak is out. Wilson will play the big games. If you're going to rest Wilson, it's away to Bournemouth.
It'd be interesting to see if he can hold up and play 3 games in a week. Maybe he can, but
of which Gordon would then probably play at number 9, we think. So, that could be time to keep Gordon actually. Just a couple more questions. Is Darwin a long-term pick? I think so. If you're in a 4-3-3, I think so.
Yeah, he is.
I think Darwin, Watkins, Haaland is probably the best setup maybe now.
I think so. Darwin is is becoming first choice in that team. That doesn't mean say he'll play every game, but he'll play most games, and he's becoming undroppable at the moment.
And luckily, Williams' Tropical Farm is also our best front three, so we just said it there. I think Williams, Watkins, Haaland. Do you think that?
Yeah, I think so, because you still got 4 Villa games which you would want Watkins for before they play Man City and Arsenal. So Watkins sticks in there for a bit.
John David, is Dingra still a good option? We've spoken about him. Yes, he is a very good option. March is out. He will be the number one there, but he will share some minutes with Buonanotte. But Buonanotte is not in favour compared to a Dingra. So yes, a Dingra, great option, 5 million. And I'll just do one more question. George Jones, thoughts on Harry Maguire as an option? My answer to that is no, because Manchester United are awful. I don't. You might get a goal from him, and that'll. And in FPL terms, that's the holy grail. Getting a goal from Harry Maguire. You can talk about that forever.
I mean, he's 4.2, isn't he? Yeah. So he's obviously an enabler. I think Varane and Reguilon will come back in at the weekend after Evans, and they played Lindelof at left back. Crazy setup at the weekend, but so that'll help them. Getting Varane back makes you a better defence.
Yeah, but no, I would
still not. I would only look to bring Maguire in if it was an enabling and upgrade, a key upgrade somewhere else. I wouldn't, in isolation, I wouldn't bother making that move.
Yeah, like I mean, I've got Lamptey, other people are Taylor or whoever, who might have a Luton defender, but they're not to play. They're just to be on the bench, and you might need them. So if you think Harry Maguire's an option to play in your first 11, then think again.
I mean, I don't fancy. I mean, the Luton game's good in 12, but can we trust United for clean sheets at the moment? I don't think we can. Whoever they're playing, really, and they've got 3 okay fixtures. But I think the Fulham and the Everton games will be tougher than we think.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up there because myself and Tom were going to record a video with our team reveals, and that will be out in the next day or so on the Fantasy Football Scout channel. Thanks again, all of those who joined us in the live chat. Hope we've answered a lot of your questions. A lot of interest in Matoma and Bomo and some of those players in those sort of cheaper midfielders there. Understandably, they're all good options there. Do remember to press that like button, and do remember to press subscribe so you can keep up to date with all our videos. In the meantime, good luck everyone with their game weeks. Tom, good luck with your game week, your post wildcard game week. So should be good, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Joe.